Breaking. King Charles just exposed Keir Starmer's secret deal with EU officials. The documents were hidden for months from British voters. Over £15 million secretly transferred to Brussels accounts. And what happened next sent shockwaves across Parliament and Buckingham Palace. The stakes couldn't be higher for Britain's future. If you want to understand how this royal bombshell will change everything, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next 48 hours will determine Britain's sovereignty for generations. Here's what sparked this unprecedented royal intervention. 3 days ago, King Charles attended what should have been a routine diplomatic reception at Windsor Castle. Royal protocol demanded the usual pleasantries, handshakes, and carefully scripted small talk. But the king wasn't following the script. Palace. Insiders reveal His Majesty appeared unusually tense. His face was drawn, his manner distracted. During a brief conversation with the French ambassador, Charles abruptly excused himself and disappeared into his private study for 23 minutes. What happened next shocked everyone present. The king returned clutching a leather portfolio, bearing the royal seal. Without warning, he approached Starmer directly. The Prime Minister's smile vanished instantly. His Majesty spoke 9 devastating words that silenced the entire room. "I think we need to discuss Brussels, Prime Minister." Witnesses described Starmer's face draining of color. Security staff were immediately ordered to clear the room. For 16 tense minutes, Britain's monarch and Prime Minister were alone. When the doors finally reopened, Starmer rushed out. His exact words to his aide were chilling. "He knows everything. Get everyone to Downing Street now." The Prime Minister's car sped away at 9:47 p.m., breaking protocol by leaving before the reception ended. Palace sources say the king appeared grim but resolute. The response was swift and devastating. By midnight, emergency meetings were underway at number 10. Cabinet ministers arrived without explanation to the press. Foreign Secretary David Lammy was spotted entering through the back entrance, his face visibly strained. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper arrived moments later, refusing all questions. According to senior Whitehall officials speaking on condition of anonymity, Charles had obtained devastating evidence. Leaked documents showed Starmer had secretly negotiated a plan to gradually return Britain to EU regulatory control. The papers revealed payments totaling £15.6 million to special Brussels accounts labelled UK Transition Preparation. Meanwhile, British pensioners who sacrificed everything for this country are suffering through the worst cost of living crisis in decades. Margaret Wilson, an 82-year-old former nurse from Sunderland, can't afford to heat her home this winter. She served the NHS for 47 years and now eats just one meal daily to save money. Her situation isn't unique. Veterans who defended British sovereignty sleep rough on the streets of Manchester. Former soldiers like James Blackwood, who served 3 tours in Afghanistan, now lives in his car. "I fought for a country that's forgotten me," he told reporters last week. While ordinary Britons suffer, Starmer's inner circle enjoys unprecedented luxury. We're talking 5-star Brussels hotels at taxpayer expense, private jets for climate conference holidays, special advisors earning more than heart surgeons for arranging these secret EU deals. The contrast is so stark, so morally repugnant, that even lifelong Labour supporters are disgusted. Union leaders who backed Starmer's election are now openly questioning his loyalty to working people. But then something happened that nobody saw coming. At 10:30 a.m. today, Buckingham Palace broke 70 years of political neutrality. In an unprecedented move, the king authorized the release of a 2-page statement directly challenging the government's integrity. At St. James's Palace, royal officials distributed documents revealing details of Starmer's secret negotiations. The British public deserves complete transparency regarding decisions affecting national sovereignty, the palace statement declared with unmistakable firmness. Royal historians called it the most significant constitutional intervention since the abdication crisis. The king's statement carefully avoided direct criticism, but made his position crystal clear. The Crown serves as guardian of democratic principles when they appear threatened, it continued. Palace insiders revealed Charles had consulted constitutional experts for weeks before acting. The documents weren't recklessly released. Each page was carefully vetted by royal lawyers, ensuring everything was legally bulletproof. The timing wasn't accidental either. Senior sources revealed Charles waited until he had absolute proof before acting. The optics are devastating for Starmer's government. A monarch felt compelled to protect democracy from elected officials secretly undermining it. Financial markets reacted immediately. The pound plummeted 3.8% against the dollar in just 40 minutes. FTSE 100 shares dropped by 287 points, the worst single-day fall since Brexit. Economic confidence shattered across sectors. Within Parliament, the Labour Party fractured instantly. 26 MPs publicly questioned Starmer's leadership. WhatsApp groups with names like Save Labour and Time for Change formed within hours. 7 junior ministers drafted resignation letters. International reaction was equally swift. The German Chancellor cancelled a planned London visit scheduled for tomorrow. Brussels officials refused all comment, a silence that speaks volumes. President Biden called for democratic transparency in a carefully worded statement. Social media exploded with Armed Starmer's secret trending globally for 14 hours straight. Over 2 million tweets mentioned royal intervention. Facebook groups organizing protests grew by thousands each hour. Polling data revealed the catastrophic impact. Labour's support collapsed from 42% to just 29% overnight. Conservative numbers jumped to 36%. Reform UK surged to 21%, their highest ever polling. Street protests erupted across Britain. In Birmingham, Manchester and Glasgow, thousands gathered with signs reading, "Betrayed by Labour" and "God Save the King." Police estimated 7,500 protesters outside Parliament by 6 p.m. Inside Number 10, absolute chaos reigns. Ministers are openly shouting at each other behind closed doors. Chief of Staff Sue Gray allegedly threatened to resign on the spot. Starmer was overheard telling Deputy PM Angela Rayner, "This is a bloody coup, not governance." Cabinet WhatsApp groups with names like Crisis Management are overflowing with panic. Ministers blame each other for the leaks. Communications Director Matthew Doyle has reportedly thrown his phone against a wall in frustration. The question isn't if they'll collapse, it's when. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper looked physically ill leaving the emergency Cobra meeting. Sources say she barely spoke during the 3-hour crisis talks. Special advisors have been ordered to prepare resignation statements. Press officers are drafting contradictory responses, unsure which strategy will survive the next hour. Career civil servants describe the atmosphere as terminal for the government. But here's the explosive part that could trigger a constitutional crisis within days. Classified Foreign Office documents show Starmer personally signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Brussels officials on September 3rd. If these documents are authentic, and if they contain what royal sources claim, then Starmer deliberately misled Parliament on at least 7 separate occasions. Think about what that means. A sitting Prime Minister potentially committed a direct violation of ministerial code. The optics of that would be absolutely devastating. Legal experts suggest such actions could trigger immediate calls for resignation or even face criminal investigation. Former prosecutors are already discussing potential misconduct in public office charges. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Rishi Sunak is strategically positioned for maximum advantage. While Starmer scrambles to contain the damage, Sunak appears calm and statesmanlike in comparison. "This isn't about politics anymore," Sunak declared from his constituency in Yorkshire. "This is about whether the British people can trust their government with the basic principles of democracy." The polls tell the story. Conservative support has surged 7 points since this morning. For the first time since losing the election, the Tories lead in 117 potential constituencies. Sunak isn't just regaining ground, he's positioned to potentially force an extraordinary early election. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has seized the moment with characteristic force. Charles has done what elected officials failed to do, protect British sovereignty, he told supporters in Dover this afternoon. The next 72 hours are absolutely critical. Parliament reconvenes tomorrow morning for an emergency session. The Cabinet Office faces potential raiding by authorities. Government legal advisors are reviewing whether ministers breached their oaths. The question is no longer whether Starmer misled voters. It's whether his entire government can survive until the weekend. Britain is watching its political foundations crack in real time. This crisis will be studied for decades as the moment royal authority clashed directly with parliamentary power. At its epicenter stands Keir Starmer, who looks increasingly isolated and desperate as each hour passes. So here's the question that matters. Did King Charles just save British democracy or destroy it? Did Starmer commit the biggest betrayal in modern political history? Or did he simply negotiate poorly and get caught? What do you think about the King's extraordinary intervention? Was Charles right to expose these documents, or should he have remained silent? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, share it with everyone who needs to see what's really happening in Britain right now. The mainstream media won't tell you the full truth, but we will. And tomorrow, we'll bring you exclusive details from inside Westminster as this crisis reaches its breaking point. The fallout from the royal bombshell continues to spread like wildfire across Britain's political landscape. Just 47 minutes ago, Chancellor Rachel Reeves was spotted entering Buckingham Palace through a rarely used side entrance. Palace sources confirm this meeting wasn't scheduled. The government's chief financial officer apparently requested an urgent audience with the King. But wait, because there's another layer to this unfolding disaster. Former MI6 officials have broken decades of silence. 3 retired intelligence officers claim Starmer's team deliberately bypassed normal security protocols when discussing these EU negotiations. Sir Malcolm Hawkins, who served 32 years in British intelligence, called it the most blatant circumvention of national security oversight I've witnessed in my lifetime. The documents Charles revealed weren't just politically explosive. They contained direct evidence of financial impropriety. EU transition funds weren't merely allocated. They were channeled through 3 separate offshore accounts first. Banking. Records show $3.7 million passed through a Cayman Islands holding company called European Advancement Partners before reaching Brussels. Look at what the financial trail reveals. 4 Labour ministers received consulting fees from this same company last year. Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves authorized these payments personally. Her signature appears on page 7 of the documentation, dated March 17th. The paper trail is undeniable and devastating. Inside Westminster, the panic has transformed into something even more dangerous: betrayal. Cabinet ministers now openly plot against each other. Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn was recorded telling allies, "Starmer's finished. We need to decide who survives this." Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson has reportedly secured the backing of 17 MPs for a leadership challenge. What's truly shocking is how quickly lifetime allies have abandoned the Prime Minister. Starmer's most loyal supporters are suddenly unreachable. Phones go straight to voicemail. Messages remain unread. The political isolation is total and brutal. Meanwhile, the royals aren't backing down. Princess Anne, normally the most politically neutral royal, was overheard at a charity function saying, "Sometimes duty requires uncomfortable actions." Prince William cancelled 3 scheduled appearances without explanation. Royal watchers call this unprecedented coordination within the family. But here's where it gets really interesting. King Charles didn't act alone. Security footage from Windsor, Castle obtained exclusively by our sources, shows Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood entering through the King's private entrance on Tuesday evening. She stayed for 90 minutes. The very next day, she was conspicuously absent from the emergency cabinet meeting. The footage shows something nobody expected. Senior members of Starmer's own government may have helped provide evidence to the palace. The betrayal runs deeper than anyone realized. Market confidence continues to collapse. Investment giant BlackRock issued a warning about constitutional uncertainty in the UK. Major development projects worth over $8 billion have been paused. The Bank of England called an emergency meeting for 6 a.m. tomorrow. Foreign embassies in London are sending urgent dispatches home. Diplomatic sources describe the crisis as potentially regime-threatening. The German ambassador reportedly told staff to prepare for significant governmental transition within days. Here's the most dramatic development that's just emerging. British military leadership has quietly increased security at key government sites. Lieutenant General James Hockenhull, Chief of Defence Intelligence, ordered a precautionary review of continuity protocols this afternoon. In simple terms, the military is preparing for potential government collapse. Veteran MPs say the atmosphere in Parliament is unlike anything they've experienced. Conservative MP Sir Graham Brady, who served through 7 prime ministers, described the mood as reminiscent of the darkest days of the 1970s, when government authority simply evaporated. The documents reveal something even more disturbing. Starmer apparently agreed to allow EU legal jurisdiction over key sectors of the British economy by 2026. This wasn't just regulatory alignment, it was surrender of legal sovereignty in financial services, agriculture, and energy policy. Veterans. Groups across Britain have announced mass demonstrations for tomorrow. The British Legion, representing over 180,000 former service members, issued its first political statement in 103 years. They expressed profound concern about apparent betrayal of national interests and demanded complete transparency regarding sovereignty negotiations. Buckingham Palace security has been quietly enhanced. Metropolitan Police deployed additional armed officers around the royal residence at 3:15 p.m. Counter-terrorism units were seen conducting perimeter sweeps. Royal protection officers have cancelled all leave for the next 14 days. The question, on everyone's lips, will the king address the nation directly? Royal precedent suggests this would only happen in moments of genuine national emergency. The last such address outside Christmas was during the COVID pandemic. Sources close to the palace say drafts of a potential speech have been prepared, but no decision has been made. What's clear is that Britain stands at its most dangerous constitutional crossroads in modern history. The carefully balanced relationship between Crown and Parliament lies shattered on the floor. The Prime Minister's authority diminishes with each passing hour. King Charles has gambled the monarchy's future on this extraordinary intervention.